is, if I understand you correctly, are you saying that you want to understand? So, for example, you hear a word and you're like, okay, well, how is this word written down? Like, what's a visual thing that I compare to it? Okay, awesome, understood. So the first thing is that I've seen the process of acquisition happen literally hundreds of times now, and if not thousands of times with different people and myself. And even though we kind of differentiate ourselves in terms of visual learners, let's say, or auditory learners, this kind of idea has like largely been debunked. And so even if you want to see something visual, that's totally fine. But that visually writing down is not necessarily going to be any more helpful than a visual representation of the word. So, for example, if I say the word, let me see here. What do I have? What do I have by me? Okay, let's just say I have an apple. Okay, you could see the word apple written down, and that might help you, but I doubt it would be any more helpful for a visual learner than for me to hold an apple and say apple. And so when we're doing comprehensible input, that's the whole beauty of us being able to use something like YouTube, which didn't exist 20, 30 years ago in the way it does now, where we now have infinite amounts of visual content that we can pair with what we're hearing. And so actually what's happening is you are getting visual content that's allowing you to understand it. And this is the exact way that you learned a language as a child. When you learned your first language, you weren't like, okay, I need to see it written down to understand it. What was happening is your brain was automatically pairing the visual stimuli that it was getting with the auditory stimuli that it was receiving through your ears. And so we're replicating that same process. And if you really want to see the way a word's written, if you really care about it, what you can do is you can just turn on subtitles in the target language. So not in your mother tongue, right? You would never turn them on in English. But if you want, if you like, feel free to turn them on in your target language. Now, the downside to doing that is of course that when you're speaking to someone in real life, like from my understanding, you guys, both of you are acquiring German. When you're having a German conversation with somebody on the street, they're not going to have subtitles under their mouth every time you're speaking. And so the issue is if you begin to rely a little bit too much on those visual cues, those written visual cues, they're not going to follow you into conversation. However, the in the world visual cues, for example, when you're at a supermarket and you see an apple and you know that that means apple, that thing really does appear in real life. And so what I'm basically calling for is if you want to turn on subtitles because that interests you, then go ahead. It's not going to really hold you back very much. However, you have all of the visual stimuli that you need to be able to understand the words being said to you in time just by having them on screen and watching. This is why we pair visual elements with what we're hearing. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Really, just to tie it all together, if you want to look it up in the words, that's totally fine. But the more you rely on that, the less you're going to be able to have that when you actually get into a conversation. Now, again, I don't think it's actually going to hold you back very much. There are some issues that I talk about at Fluency Formula quite often that really will hold you back. So, for example, I think speaking too early actually can really hold a speaker back in the long run. And that's actually what today's presentation is about. But I think one of the things that aren't really going to hold you back very much, let's say if we have a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 10 is really going to hold you back. It's like, for example, a 10 would be never studying the language. Okay, that's obviously going to hold you back because how are you going to make progress? And then a 1 is it's fine. It's basically like no problem whatsoever. You can do this. It's not going to hold you back. I would put target level subtitles at like a 2.5. So basically, I think it's totally fine if you want them and if you're convinced they're going to help you, but you don't need them at all. And this is the kind of thing that you need to trust in time and see that actually you're going to be learning just as fast, if not faster, without the subtitles. And that's something you'll see in time. I encourage you to experiment though and see what you like. Does that help? Fantastic. Okay, cool. Real quick, since you made it to the end, if you're done collecting apps and you actually want to speak your target language, this next part is for you. I acquired Mandarin in 182 days. I've helped thousands of people acquire their target language, and I took one of my students from 0 to conversational Italian in 61 days. I put the entire method into a free video called the Fluency Roadmap. It's in the description and in the pinned comment. Go watch it. It's completely free, and let me help you actually get there.